Hi, my name is Claire Bryan, and today I'm going to talk about one of the greatest speeches of the 20th century, President Ronald Reagan's speech, Tear Down This Wall. I'm going to show you my audience. Okay. On June 12, 1987, President Ronald Reagan made his Tear Down This Wall speech in Berlin at the Brandengerd Gate near the Berlin Wall, commemorating the 750th anniversary of Berlin. As you can see in this picture here, audience, President Ronald Reagan is behind a bulletproof screen glass, and this is because this was in the midst of the Cold War, and President Ronald Reagan is making his speech in East Germany outside of the Berlin Wall, which is in West Berlin. As you can see here, these are two maps that show a better picture of East and West Berlin, and this speech was directed towards the Soviet leader union, Mykolaiv Gorbachev, and this speech, President Ronald Reagan was asking the Soviet leader union to reunify East and West Germany by tearing down the Berlin Wall, which divided communist Berlin and democratic Berlin. In this picture right here, you can see in dark green, West Germany, and in dark green in this little zoomed in picture is also West Berlin. And in light green, East Germany, and in light green, the section of East Berlin. The darker green, West Germany and West Berlin, is the democratic part of Germany, and the light green, East Germany and East Berlin, are communists. And in this picture shows a better viewpoint of the division between East and West Berlin in East Germany. And West Berlin is outlined by a red line, which is the course of the Berlin Wall. And the Berlin Wall was extended 100 miles and was a 12-foot wall, stone wall, with many electric fences and guard posts. You guys can all see here. The effects and the world's reaction to this speech made by President Ronald Reagan was positive and negative at the same time, and also very controversial to many leaders, such as the communist leaders, who considered this speech very controversial and they considered it very foul. The Soviets considered this speech to be openly provocative and warmongering speech, because they thought this offended them and the power of their leader. There's a lot of controversy over the fall of the Berlin Wall and this speech as well, because the U.S. administration and government didn't want to offend the Soviet leader union, Gorbachev, by adding any words in the speech that were undermining to any of his political powers, and they did not want to further cause any more disrupt in the Cold War. So when writing this speech, there was much controversy over whether they should add in the words, "Tear down this wall." And as you can see here, this picture is an outline of the speech. And originally, a couple of it was one of the first rough drafts. And as you can see, there's a lot of scribbles and a lot of markouts and words filled in, because they were kind of playing with words, taking them in and taking them out to make sure the speech was in no way offending to anyone. And on the bottom here, you can see a picture. This was actually at the speech, and people in East Germany were trying to come up to the wall and listen to the speech that President Ronald Reagan was making at the time, but were being resisted by huge water guns, or huge forces of water by the soldiers to keep back, and because they didn't want them hearing this speech. In the limo ride on the way to the gate, which is located near the Berlin Wall, President Ronald Reagan made a game-time decision and decided to add the words "tear down this wall" in the speech, even if the administration didn't think it was a very good idea. He thought that without those words, the speech wouldn't be as powerful and wouldn't make as much of a stance in history as it has. And as you can see, this rough draft of the speech right there. One of the main effects of this speech and the outcomes was the fall of the Berlin Wall and also the ending of the Cold War. These were two of the main outcomes and some of the greatest in history. On the top, you can see here President Ronald Reagan and the Soviet Union, Gorbachev, shaking hands and exchanging a pen to sign a treaty, which was one of the ending aspects of the Cold War in 1987. And they were shaking hands and signing this treaty in Washington. And then below, in this photo, shows the tearing down of the Berlin Wall in October 1990. In this photo over here, you can see a picture of President Ronald Reagan and his wife, both taking a hammer and nail and chipping off a piece of the Berlin Wall. And also in this picture, this black and white photo shows the soldiers tearing down piece by piece the wall, and you can see the people of East Berlin and West Berlin meeting and all happy and cheering. President Ronald Reagan was one of the many great presidents of our time of U.S. history, but he was seen as one of the only ones who really took force and did something about this Cold War and the matter of it. And many people at first thought he was crazy to make a speech like this, but in effect, it was one of the known things that ended the Cold War, and he was called to have said won the Cold War. Do we have any questions from the audience?
Yeah. Are there any remnants of the Berlin Wall around today?
Yes. Actually, today there are remnants of the Berlin Wall in Washington, D.C. at some of the museums. And then also, if you go to Berlin, there is still pieces of the wall up as a memorial. And then, as well as, there's a plaque and a little memorial dedicated after President Ronald Reagan and this speech. So if you go there, you can see all those memorials there right in front of where he actually made the speech. Any other questions?
What were people's initial reactions after the speech was made?
Some people's initial reactions after the speeches were made were very shocked because he used such aggressive, controversial words, calling out Gorbachev to take down this wall. But many political leaders and figures look back today and comment that if he did not use the words "tear down this wall" and that type of language, then it wouldn't have made the effect it made in history. Okay. Thank you very much.